Falmouth Community Television's coverage of town meeting is sponsored by the following corporate underwriters.
Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Carlson Printing for all your printing needs. 508-548-7303 or toll free at 1-800-696-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@aol.com. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by Meganet Communications. Meganet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net. Additional funding and support provided by the following corporate sponsors.
Barrett Plumbing and Heating offers expert plumbing, heating, and air conditioning services to all our residential and commercial customers on Cape Cod and surrounding area. We are a full-service plumbing specialist offering professional workmanship to suit your budget. Whatever your heating or plumbing need, you can always count on a job that's done right.
Dogs and Hogs, family owned and operated for over 5 years. Our slow smoke barbecue is available for dine-in, pickup, or catering, now featuring our homemade barbecue sauce. We also serve beer and wine, have gluten-free options, and lobster rolls.
RJ's Variety and Liquor, family owned and operated for 15 years. We have a variety of beer, wine, and liquor, local frozen stuffed quahogs, local frozen pizza snacks, and more. RJ's Variety and Liquor, 174 Sandwich Road, T-Ticket. The attorneys at Oppenheim & Nickerson LLP have provided legal services in Falmouth for over 36 years. We advocate for our clients and work to provide quality representation in the areas of business and corporate law, real estate law, estate planning, and estate administration. 508-548-8255.
We at Falmouth Fish believe there is nothing better than a fresh piece of fish, direct from the waters of Cape Cod in New England. Nothing beats waking up at 4 a.m. to search out the highest quality seafood from the best fishermen in the world.
Seven Stars Academy, offering martial arts and Tai Chi. Training at Seven Stars Academy can transform your life. It's amazing to see the positive impact it has on our students. Classes for adults and children of all ages. Confidence, not conflict, at Seven Stars Academy of Martial Arts.
Hamilton Tree and Landscaping has been proudly serving Falmouth and the Upper Cape since 1978. Located on Route 151, we're available for all landscaping and tree concerns. Appreciating your property is our motto as we continue to keep your tree and landscaping needs our top priority. At A&A Paving, we believe in providing customers with quality products supported by excellent service. We provide commercial and residential seal coating, asphalt paving, and repair services for Cape Cod and southeastern Mass. A&A Paving, 508-540-4944.
Calfee Insurance, offering insurance policies for your car, home, business, life, and disability. Calfee cares about all your insurance needs. 508-540-2601 and online at calfeeinsurance.com.
Thomas J. Bunker and Jeffrey E. Reither are BSS Design, providing land surveying and civil engineering in Falmouth since 1987. Licensed and fully insured, they're located on Catherine Lee Bates Road, and their phone number is 540-8805.
Wild Harbor General Store, located in historic North Falmouth Village, providing quality goods and services for 170 years. Continuing to make history with our support of FCTV's coverage of Falmouth Town Meeting.
Liam McGuire's Irish Pub. With a newly renovated dining room, it's what an Irish pub should be. Main Street, downtown Falmouth. Bayside Kitchen and Bath at 419 Palmer Avenue in Falmouth, where design and installation professionals work closely with homeowners, architects, and builders, offering a full range of cabinetry, countertops, and faucets. Bayside Kitchen and Bath, returning you to beautiful spaces.
Eastman's has been Falmouth's hardware store since 1913. With a newly added retail space providing kitchen accessory and gourmet foods, our friendly staff is available to assist you with your hardware and kitchen needs. 508-540-0407.
Carpet Barn, Carpet One Home Showcase, a local family-owned business offering all your premier carpet and flooring needs. They also feature tile and vinyl floors, area rugs, window treatments, and kitchen and bathroom cabinetry, serving you at 4 convenient locations. Cavosa Disposal is proud to provide trash removal, recycling, and composting to local businesses in Falmouth and surrounding communities. Cavosa Disposal would like to thank its customers in Falmouth. Cavosa Disposal, 508-563-5070. Family owned since 1919, at Puritan Cape Cod you'll find the latest in men's and women's clothing, as well as ski and tennis equipment and much more. Located on Main Street, Falmouth, and in Chatham, Mashpee, and Hyannis. Puritan Cape Cod, 199 Main Street, Falmouth, and online at purittancapecod.com.
FCTV is also supported by the following businesses and organizations.
Nobska Lighthouse and Maritime Museum, friendsofnobska.org. Falmouth EDIC, Economic Development and Industrial Corporation, 508-548-7440. Partners Technology, Voice and Data Solutions, 781-930-5000. Wacoit Congregational Church, 508-548-5269. Annie Hartcool, Global Real Estate Advisor, Sotheby's International Realty, 508-868-0664. St. Elizabeth Seton Church, 508-563-7770. Vincent Associates, 548-6500. Turning Point Dance Studio presents the Sea Captain's Nutcracker at Tilden Arts Center in Barnstable. Soares Flower Garden Nursery, 508-548-5288. M. Duffany Builders, 508-540-3625. Cranberry Nail Spa, 508-495-9999. Neighborhood Falmouth, 508-564-7543. Danny's Barbershop, 508-548-6013. Carl F. Cavosa Excavating, 508-563-5530. Paul's Precision Automotive Repair, 464 Main Street, 508-548-3164. David Rogers Electric, Residential, commercial, industrial, TV studio, and motion picture. 508-564-7507. Murray and McDonald's Insurance. 800-800-8990. The Davy Tree Expert Company. 508-548-2662. Andy's Barbershop in the Falmouth Plaza. Chapman Cole and Gleason, 508-540-4172. Hanush Jewelers, downtown Falmouth, 508-548-9107. Mahoney's Garden Center, 508-548-4842. The Cape Cod 5 at 508-457-5252, capecod5.com. The Cooperative Bank of Cape Cod, 508-495-5010. Martha's Vineyard Savings Bank, 508-627-4266. VIPS of Falmouth Volunteers in Public Schools, 508-548-1621. Cape Cod Cleaning, 508-563-7622. Steve's Pizzeria and More, 508-457-9454. FCTV also thanks Roach Brothers, Stop and Shop, and Windfall Market.
Okay, all town meeting members, please come forward, take your seats so we can establish a quorum. Okay, all town meeting members present, please come forward. Make sure you've checked in and you have your electronic voting device. Yeah, if we could cue the quorum slide. Greg, if we could cue up a slide for a quorum. Okay, folks, come on down, take your seats. Remind everyone that has a cell phone to please put it on a silent operation or turn it off before we commence the meeting. I heard some phones ringing last night. Want to remind all town meeting members, if you have your Charter Review Committee survey, there's a box in the lobby, and you can drop off your completed survey, and there are extra copies of the survey in the lobby if you haven't gotten them yet. So you can drop them off tonight, pick one up during the break if necessary, fill it out and drop it off. Okay, let's activate the quorum call. All members present, please press 1 for the establishment of a quorum. Okay, all town meeting members present, please press 1 for the establishment of the quorum. Did she do it? I saw her looking at it. Okay. I saw her looking at it. By a counted vote of 183 members, we have a quorum, and I call the annual town meeting back into session. All present, please rise for the presentation of the colors by the Falmouth Scout Honor Guard. Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time I'll recognize Virginia Valiella for our invocation.
Lord, when it comes to meeting and communicating with each other, help us to be good listeners. Help us to be open-minded, putting aside our own agendas. Help us to be honest without being insensitive. Help us to be respectful without being too formal or artificial. Help us to question and to challenge without being harsh. Help us to be aware that this is just one moment, just one meeting. And lastly, help us to remember that you too are always meeting and communicating with us. Amen.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence this evening for another town meeting member that we lost since our last town meeting, Sia Karplus. Colors, post. The Falmouth Scout Honor Guard, including the Sea Scouts, the Boy Scouts, and the Cub Scouts. Okay, we're going to start on Article 11 tonight. Article 11, the Planning Board for the main motion.
Charlotte Harris, Precinct 5, and member of the Planning Board. I'd like to first read the motion and then talk about it for a few minutes before you rush ahead. The motion is, I move to amend the zoning bylaw by adding a new section, 2040-12, moratorium on solar energy system to read. 2040-12, moratorium on permits for solar. The provisions of the zoning bylaw, to the contrary notwithstanding, no building permit or special permit for the construction of solar arrays on business property, business zone property, as defined, shall issue until November 30th, 2019, or until this article is repealed by a vote of town meeting, whichever occurs first. The purpose of this article is to provide the time necessary to study impacts to sites, site coverage, and other issues associated with the location of this use in front yard setbacks and along the roadways of Falmouth. Before you go ahead and vote against it, which I suspect you're going to do, I would like to explain that it's not unreasonable. The new law that has been passed by the state allows for reasonable regulations. You yourself voted last night for a reasonable regulation in passing the article that created the solar overlay district, so you've acknowledged the reasonableness of some regulations. The planning board had hoped to have the opportunity to have a planning site review before ground-mounted solar arrays went up.
Could we hold for one moment? So the number is -12. Your warrant booklet is -13. So that is one change. And can we just confer for one moment before you continue?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, that was actually exciting. The
Maybe
Really?
for you, but
Mr. Vieira thought that this would be withdrawn because Article 7 passed, and I thought, oh, wow. But no, in fact, it didn't. So this isn't withdrawn. So let me go back to where I was, which is the explanation of why this is here as sort of a backup. It's confusing to have a setup on a warrant article that if this one passes, we'll withdraw that. We apologize for the confusion. In the future, we're not going to present things in that way. But we saw it as one way to try and be sure that we would have time to develop appropriate regulations for this relatively new technology. The town doesn't have them now. It's true, as Rod Pemman has told us, that he's going to apply the zoning regulations that exist, but they don't really suit the occasion, and it needs to be refined in some reasonable way. We had thought that by having it be considered as a structure, we would have a site plan review in advance of making decisions, which would give us a case-by-case chance to develop a sense of what would be appropriate, and that would have worked for us. But now that hasn't happened. So rather than having that case-by-case approach that we would have gotten through a site planning process, we're asking for the time to be able to develop that. The amount of time that we would like is either 1 year through next November, or if it isn't working for some reason, sooner than that, you could get rid of it in April. So it's either 6 months or a year's time to develop reasonable regulations. That doesn't seem unreasonable. I'd also like to use this opportunity to try and correct some statements that were made yesterday that may be untrue. The statement was made that the new state law forbids the consideration of aesthetics. The word aesthetics doesn't appear in the law. It's just plain not there. The law doesn't make any comment whatsoever about the appearance of ground-mounted solar arrays. It's not in the law. What the law says is a phrase that's often used in legislation: safety, health, public welfare. Think about those words. Welfare, if you look at Webster, often refers to general well-being, prosperity, economic sort of considerations. That's all in the clutch of ideas that are held together in that word of welfare. Much of the welfare of our town depends on its appearance. People come here, they buy houses here, they visit here, they spend their money here because we're a beautiful community. It's part of our welfare. We need to be thinking about that as we think about zoning our town. So that's the statement I'd like to make. Now, please consider the moratorium. I have a feeling it's not going anywhere, but think about it. Thank you.
Mr. Latimer.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Richard Latimer, Precinct 1. I hate to stand up here like a lawyer, but I'm going to say a few words in Latin just to start out. First one is expressio unius est exclusio alterius, which means if you say one thing, that eliminates other things. When you talk about health, safety, and welfare, that excludes aesthetics, period. That's a legal maxim. The other one is noscitur associus, which means when you list several things in a row, you know what each one means by what it is associated with. Health and safety and welfare. Welfare refers back to health and safety or other general concerns related to health and safety. Now that is the law. The law says these regulations can only be directed to health, safety, and welfare. Welfare meaning things related to the well-being of individuals, not to property values, not to what some people think are tasteful appearance and other people might think is not a tasteful appearance. So I think we want to say no to this. We said no to the other restriction they wanted to put on the individual's ability to develop their properties with solar installations. We want to say no to this. We don't want to be another pawn in the Koch brothers' assault on alternative energy. And if you don't believe that's true, that's what it is. The Koch brothers are making billions and billions of dollars of oil. They don't want to stop doing it until they pump every last drop out of the ground and this planet is turned into a wasteland. We've got to start on the local level all across America, and we cannot go along with something like this that says for a whole year. Oh, it's only a year. If I'm somebody that really is concerned about global warming, and I'm also concerned about my electric bill, a year is a hell of a long time. Let's just say no to this nonsense. Move on. We passed a bill that had to do with major installations, but this is something that's going to affect the average homeowner in town who might both want to save some money on his electricity and help protect the environment. So let's just say no. Thank you.
Okay, in the far right, in the center.
Hi, Precinct 5, Beth Cioletta. I just want to point out that the article that's on the slide is actually slightly different than what's in our warrant book. It includes the words "on business-zoned property" instead of...
That's correct. So there's two changes. I thought the planning board was going to let you know that. So 13 should be 12, and it specifically says "on business zone property" in the third line.
Which one is correct?
This is the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, Mrs. Putnam, I'll add you onto the list there.
Rebecca Putnam, Precinct 9. So what's aesthetically pleasing? You have a board of 5 or 7 members who gets to decide whether it looks right or it looks wrong. First of all, with solar, when you're talking about solar, it has to be built and done in a way that is generating the energy. So depending on what type of sun maybe a business zone property receives, it might be more shadowed at certain times of the day. They may have to build it slightly more slanted. It's not going to all look the same, ever. Number 2, if we put this in place for a year, we don't know how many businesses have already put down deposits and have asked for permits to do this in their parking lots currently. They've already started an investment. They've paid money. It's not right for us to say that 5 or 7 people get to determine what looks right and what looks wrong. If you go down Church Street, which I know that I've seen a few Facebook posts this week about, there is a house being built right next door to the cemetery and the church there. To me, it is not aesthetically pleasing. To the homeowner who is building it, who paid for a permit and paid an architect, it is. Why are we insistent upon stopping the solar? Business-owned property is the right place to put it. It's usually in a business-zoned area. When you drive down Route 28, you have huge parking lots, and actually, I think it would be great. It's a nice place to park. Like yesterday, we had such nasty weather. And let them generate some energy cleanly, without putting up a wind turbine, without doing things that we have found to be detrimental. This moratorium, the planning board needs to come back with actual guidelines and ask us to vote on actual restrictions, like they did last night. I ask you vote this down.
Ms. Siegel?
Deborah Siegel, Precinct 6. Mr. Moderator, I don't know if you're going to allow me to say this, but I didn't dare try to say it at 10:30 last night. I am begging the planning board the next time that you come to us with complex and complicated articles with multiple revisions, please have the courtesy to at least highlight the changes so that it is easier for us to figure out what those changes are. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Carey?
Rosemary Carey, Precinct 5, and I'm a member of the Energy Committee. The Energy Committee believes the year-long hiatus is unnecessary, and our residents and businesses would lose out in the meantime. Already, Falmouth residents and businesses have installed 11.7 megawatts of solar capacity, and a new solar installation, according to one industry member, happens on an average of 1 every 2.5 days in Falmouth. That's astonishing. Do we really want to shut that down? If a moratorium is placed on solar in Falmouth, our business owners would miss key financial incentives in the first years of the state's new SMART program. A one-year moratorium would leave Falmouth on the bench while other towns enjoy the benefits. Finally, in a report addressed to policymakers, that's us here in the room, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is telling us that we have about 12 years if we are going to rapidly transition to renewable energy and leave future generations with a planet that is anything like the one we have today. So it would be unconscionable, really, for our coastal town sitting on the front lines of climate change to suspend solar energy development for an entire year, one of these critical years that we need to get going. So I'm asking for a vote no on Article 11. We know what inaction looks like, or delay, and we just don't have the time anymore. Time's up. Thank you.
Okay, in the back, Mr. Stone.
Falmouth Town Meeting. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today regarding Article 11. I'm Michael Stone, of Precinct 6, a resident and taxpayer. I have a small business here in Falmouth, Suntility Electric, that's been operating for 5 years. I have worked in the solar industry for 10 years. The projects I manage are primarily based in Massachusetts and Vermont, and clients range from Fortune 500 energy companies to local nonprofits. An important note, my company is not working on any solar projects in development in Falmouth. That is simply not my company's focus. I'm speaking to you today because I simply care about clean energy progress in this town and care about helping to advance the many economic and health benefits that solar power offers. Falmouth and its institutions are stronger because of solar. According to the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, there are nearly 50 commercial solar installations in Falmouth out of the nearly 800 solar installations in total. Solar helps lower businesses' operating costs, brings federal and state incentives to our community, and helps make Falmouth organizations more competitive and more resilient. That benefits all of Falmouth citizens. Pillars of our community, Falmouth Service Center, the Marine Biological Laboratory, Falmouth Academy, Falmouth Youth Hockey, Cape Cod Church, Falmouth Jewish Congregation, Atria Senior Living, St. Barnabas Church, Wacoit Bay Research Reserve, the Woodsole Oceanographic Institute, the Falmouth Artists Guild, and many more all have solar. These organizations went solar to do the right thing, save energy, save money, create jobs, and help the environment. Shouldn't we be encouraging other organizations such as these to go solar? Shouldn't we be encouraging action to preserve a stable environment on which we all depend? Solar is a significant net benefit to this town and is a valuable part of a diversified local economy. Solar has brought over $40 million worth of investment to Falmouth, employed local skilled professionals, engineers, electricians, and laborers. Solar also raises property values, according to the U.S. Department of Energy, as proven by multiple studies. For example, an average size residential solar array increases a home's value by $15,000. So overall, solar provides significant benefits to Falmouth. A solar moratorium would be bad for Falmouth. Also, based on state law, as had been discussed yesterday, a solar moratorium would likely be deemed illegal by the Attorney General. Judge for yourself. No zoning ordinance or bylaw shall prohibit or unreasonably regulate the installation of solar energy systems or the building of structures that facilitate the collection of solar energy, except where necessary to protect the public health safety, or welfare. A solar moratorium would prohibit solar. Falmouth is a better place with solar. Healthier, safer, and stronger today and into the future. I urge you to vote no on the solar moratorium.
Ms. Vogel?
Hi, Wendy Vogel, Precinct 4. I am familiar with the studies that show that roof-mounted solar does increase property values and is shown to be an additional asset to a home. What it seems to me tonight we're talking about the addition of a lot of ground-mounted solar arrays. So my question, and I'm not sure who to direct it to, is what are the potential safety issues with ground-mounted solar? Do they get hot? Do they emit waves? Are they a problem for children? Is there someone who could address that? Thank you.
I can't give you any kind of a proper answer, but I can say that giving us time to hear information like that would be helpful.
Okay, Mr. Neto?
Joe Neto, Precinct 9. Fellow town meeting members, I would just ask you, would you really want to pass legislation that's anti-business and call that planning? Would you like to pass legislation tonight that affects the profit and loss margin of the local businesses of the town of Falmouth? You really want to take part in that political process? I know I don't. I can tell you one reason why these business folks are putting these solar arrays up, because I went to one of them that has one and talked to them. And I was shocked. And I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I said, oh my God, why would you spend so much money? Very simple, Joe, because the payback at today's electric rates is this. So I'm not going to talk to you about the scientific parts of it, you know, of the beach erosion like we did last night. But the dollars and cents which we ask these business folks in the town of Falmouth to be prosperous so that they can hire the residents of the town and we can have a vibrant economy. You know what your home electric bill is. When I spoke to these business people and they told me what their bill was, I was shocked. A month. You're talking $20,000, $30,000. Not for big business either. So therefore, I do not want to take part in any legislation that infringes upon that person's right to earn a living. Thank you.
Okay, before I continue with my list, is there anyone that wants to speak in favor of the moratorium? Mr. Hargraves.
Thank you. Peter Hargraves, Precinct 9. You know, I'm getting really uncomfortable with the discussion here because it's mischaracterizing this issue as a battle between people who are for solar and people who are against solar. And it's not about that at all. I applaud the planning board for taking on a complex issue and trying to make some sense out of it. And unfortunately, last night, we bypassed the opportunity to put some structure and learn as we go by voting down Article 7. So I think approving a moratorium so that we can make some sense out of this is the right thing to do. In my view, have we learned nothing from the past 4 years with the wind turbines? They were fine, no problem. You know, they met all the regulations, we put them in, and suddenly there were issues. We don't know the issues with solar, and I'm standing up here, the only one speaking in favor of this article besides the authors and the planning board. And I'm getting the feeling that, you know, if you're either for solar or against solar, and that means you're a climate denier or you're a smart person, and I think it totally mischaracterizes what we're talking about. I'm talking about, sane site plan review and concern about the character of our town, and I'm the first one in line for reducing emissions, improving the environment, and having green energy. But let's look at what the real issue is here, and mischaracterization of the Massachusetts law in order to defeat sane articles that give us maintain control over the character of our town is a travesty. And I haven't heard from legal minds who might have another opinion on that, but it's worded ambiguously enough that you could take any side of that. So I would say, please think about this, and I say all mine in English, I have no Latin, and vote in favor of this article. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Grant Walker, Precinct 3. I don't have a very extensive answer, but I have somewhat of an answer to the lady who spoke a few moments ago asking if there's any information. I have in my hand a report entitled Clean Energy Results, Questions and Answers, Ground-Mounted Solar Photovoltaic Systems. This represents a study of many studies that were done on solar by the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. And in this report, they look at heat, they look at various kinds of waves, they look at reflection, they look at all kinds of things. One of the things they look at, for example, is, well, what happens when you have to take these things down? And I've read parts of this, and I'm not qualified to understand everything in here, but it has a lot of answers to those kinds of questions. And when you take these things down, from what the studies indicate so far, you have to practically bash them to pieces and grind them into powder before you're going to release anything that comes close to harming anybody. But there is a report available. It's online, Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources.
Okay, Ms. Lichtenstein? Ms. Lichtenstein? Okay, we have a motion to close discussion. All those in favor of closing discussion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. It's apparent the chairs that the ayes have it by a 2/3, and I so declare. The question will now come on the main motion that's up on the overhead. So it's as printed, changing the number 13 to 12 and adding the language on business zoned property. All those in favor of the main motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. It's opinion of the chairs that the noes have it by a majority, and therefore there is no 2/3. Article 12, the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen is indefinite postponement. Mr. Walker, would you put a positive motion on the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move Article 12 as printed.
As printed. Mr. Walker.
So, hello everybody. I'll try to make this as quick as I can. I've cut it down. Article 12, no spending, no borrowing, no bylaw, no permitting, no construction, no delays. We're focusing on two programs in Massachusetts, net metering and SMART. SMART's a new program. They're both intended to encourage solar in the state. And basically, Article 12 asks us, let's remove or urge the removal of some bad things, but let's keep the good things. First, net metering. If you have solar panels that generate more electricity than you use, that electricity goes out to the grid, you get a credit for that electricity, and you can use that credit to help pay charges on your bill. Got to have a meter. Some people have 2 meters, got to have an account with an electric utility company. You could have solar panels on a school, on a house, on a manufacturing facility, on a farm, on a supermarket, on a hospital parking garage. Who's eligible? I'm sorry, let's get to this question first. Who owns the electricity? What happens to it? It's out there on the grid. The utility company that delivers electricity to the customers and people, your own house perhaps in your area, they own that, they control that, they sell that electricity to other customers. The net, in net metering, let's take a look at that. The net refers to the difference between the electricity that you use and the electricity that your system sends out when you don't need electricity because it's generating more than you use. You get a credit for that. The value of the credit is worth money, of course. It appears as a dollar amount on your bill. Credits never expire, and you can roll them over to the next billing period. Not included in the calculation of the net metering credits, all the other charges you get on your electricity bill. It's only the electricity that comes in and the electricity goes out. Get the difference? That tells you whether you got a credit or not. Let's take a look at what we mean by the caps on net metering. The caps are limits on the total combined capacity of all the solar systems in the territory, the service territory of a given utility. It's not a cap on you, it's not a cap on me, it's not a cap on them. It's a cap on the whole array, combined aggregate total of all the systems in a given area. There are exemptions to the cap. Some people's solar systems don't count towards that total aggregate capacity that is limited by the caps. Houses, residences, small systems have not been counted towards the cap. They are exempt. Did I skip one? No, I didn't. Even hydroelectric power has been accepted for net metering in Massachusetts. Now, the caps have been reached. It was in April of 2016 that the Massachusetts legislature set the cap for the whole Commonwealth, 1,727.25 megawatts for the whole Commonwealth. About 1 year after that cap was set, caps were reached in 2 of the NSTAR service territories and in the Unitil service territory. 6 months after that, the caps were reached in western Massachusetts for Eversource there. Here, where we are, in southeastern Massachusetts, caps have not been reached. So what happens when caps have been reached? Projects are locked out. They don't qualify. They could send their electricity out to the grid, but if they do, it won't help them much because the compensation they'll get for the electricity will be a tiny fraction of the compensation that is received by all those projects that got in before the cap was reached. So Article 12 asks us to urge our representatives to serve us in this way and to fight for the removal of the caps. Why do we want to remove them? Well, let's just review a few reasons. Fairness. People who invest their money, school systems, churches, hospitals, whatever, businesses who invest their money in solar panels and then actually send electricity out to the grid, they should be paid for that. They should not be forced to give it away. Fairness. There's also job growth. There's also the fact that the more we can use of solar, the less we need natural gas and natural gas pipelines and other fossil fuels. Now, Article 12, in addition to urging removal of the caps, urges that we have the ability to net meter as long as our system is sending electricity out to the grid. Why put 10 years on it or 20 years on it? As long as it's capable of sending electricity out to the grid, let's go with it. Another good thing about the net metering program is the assignment of credits. So you got a credit for electricity that you generated and did not use. You can assign that credit to another account. Could be if you have a business in the same area or a second home in the same area. It could be to a friend or a relative. It could be to a public school. You can assign credits to another account that they can use against their bill. So we're urging that to be kept. And to do that, you have to be in the same or with the same utility company as that other account, and you have to be in the very same electric distribution load territory. Those are the territories. It might be a little tough to see the colors and what they define, but that's also available at the Department of Energy Resources. Article 12 also urges us to urge them, the representatives, to keep community solar. Community solar is a solar facility in which many customers can share, many businesses, many homes, whatever. 3 ways to participate in community solar. You can buy shares in community solar. Even though you never use that electricity, you can benefit financially from being an owner of the shares in that energy that is produced. Secondly, you can subscribe as a customer, get your electricity. Because the program offers support to community solar installations that serve people locally, you'll get a lower rate. Third way to participate in community solar is sometimes people in a given community actually get together, put their money together, set up their own generating facility with a lot of solar panels, and all get their electricity from it. Community solar is critical for a number of things. Article 12 urges fair compensation, but I didn't want to presume, and the people that signed this petition with me didn't want to presume that we knew what was fair. There's a lot of fighting going on about what's fair. How much should we pay for that electricity? Should people get exactly the same amount as they pay retail for that electricity to the utility company? Should it be a little bit less, which it has been? What should it be? The new program, SMART, is going to offer incentives and compensation that are going to pay people even more than the retail rate. It's going to be more than 1 for 1. Article 12 also urges on-bill compensation. No waiting for a check in the mail. No filing for reimbursement. Month to month, right on your bill. Renters, low-income people, others who cannot put solar panels on their house, they can participate in community solar. And the program offers support for the low-income people. So they get an even more discounted rate on their bill. Whoops, I went by my favorite slide. The new program. It's called SMART, Solar Massachusetts Renewable Target. And there's a SMART cap. There's a cap on the new program. And the cap is, again, a limit on the total capacity that is going to be eligible for reimbursement and incentives. It's not on you, it's not on me, it's not on him or her. It's on the whole system, if you will. Here we see a table. Don't worry about the numbers. It shows basically what the cap is for each utility company in each of its service territories. It's the idea. Public and private entities, each
Okay,
utility
Mr.
company,
Walker,
each territory.
We're at 10 minutes.
Am I 10 minutes?
Yep.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
So please vote in favor of Article 12. I never got to SMART, but that's the next program. It does pretty much some of the same things in different ways. It has caps.
Okay, Mr. Antonucci.
And it has declining compensation.
Mr. Antonucci.
Bob Antonucci, Precinct 6. I do respect your opinion. I respect your opinion on every article that's come up, and that's important. But you know what, just tonight, at this town meeting last night, I'm getting a little frustrated by the complexity of the issues that are brought to town meeting floor with a lot of study. You just told me how many things Article 12 is going to do. In no way am I going to vote for it, because I'm not sure those are accurate. Not doubting your integrity, not doubting your work. I would suggest we take a moratorium for a year on every new regulation and every advocacy that we're doing. That's what we need. This town meeting is getting a little carried away. We're making decisions that are going to impact the town in the future without good deliberation. This is no reflection of the people who serve on committees. I just think it's about time we focus on what's best for the town. I don't need a lecture on Article 12. I don't need a lecture on how to put my cans in the right bin at every town meeting. I get it. So let's move on. So I'm against Article 12 because of its complexity, not because of Mr. Walker, because he does his homework. You have to give him credit. But the complexity of that issue is the same as the complexity with the solar issues. So I would urge all of us, take a step back, take a deep breath, and not vote for Article 12. Thank you.
Further discussion on Article 12? Ms. Siegel.
Deborah Siegel, Precinct 6. This isn't a regulation. So I think to put it in that category is giving the wrong impression. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion? Mr. Latimer?
Richard Latimer, Precinct 1. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As Ms. Siegel has said, this isn't a regulation. This is just simply a resolution. We want to let our legislators know, and perhaps the legislators down Cape and similar towns, that this town is in favor of fairness in electrical energy distribution. We'll do it in a way that will encourage more people to install these systems because they'll save more money. And what the article calls for is simply asking the legislators to come up with a fairer formula than now exists. And I don't think that's too hard to understand. I understand it. The existing formula is unreasonably restrictive. There's a 20-year cap on these systems. Why? How is there's a megawatt cap on these systems? Why? Why should that be? This is simply asking our legislature to go forward and look at those questions. And I say vote yes on this. Thank you.
Okay, the question will come on the main motion as printed. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Can we cue a slide? Okay. We're going to use the electronic voting devices for this. It's a simple majority. Activating the polling. All those in favor of Article 12 as printed signify by pressing 1A. Those opposed, 2B. Mr. Hunt, you're having trouble with the device? Okay, we'll deal with that as soon as we're complete here. We're going to need to save the results on this for a moment. We might have a clicker that's not working. Okay, the current total is 126 in favor, 68 opposed. It passes, but can we pull up Carter Hunt on the roster and see if the vote activated? Okay, yeah. Brian, are we getting a light on that it's... Yeah, here's the clicker. Did you notice if you registered during the quorum? Okay.
Just reissue a new clicker.
Yeah. Wasn't No, because we can't get through the rotation more than once if we go too slow. Registered now, so it's now active. Oh, it actually, so he's in the 126. Okay. So the display is not showing that it voted. Is that what I'm hearing? Oh, okay, so it didn't, gotcha. It didn't come up here, but it was in the total. Okay. Okay, so 126 in favor and 68 opposed. The article passes. Article 14. Recommendation of the Planning Board. I'm assuming we got some slides.
I'm Pat Kerfoot, the Planning Board. I move Article 14 to amend the zoning bylaw, Article 5, single resident districts, and Article 8, agricultural districts, and by amending both Section 240-31I and Section 240-38I, accessory apartments, by deleting both sections and inserting the new language below in both sections as printed with the following changes and additions. 3E, the accessory apartment shall have no more than 2 bedrooms and a maximum of 800 square feet or 40% of the principal dwelling, whichever is less, as measured using the exterior side of the first floor outside wall. And in deference to Ms. Siegel, this would have been in bold, had we done it this way, plus as follows: finished attic space, 50% of first floor; finished half-story, 75% of first floor; 3/4 story gambrel, 90% of first floor; second floor colonial, 100% of first floor; and third floor colonial, 100% of first floor. 4A, the architectural effect as the result of the accessory apartment being constructed within the principal dwelling or attached thereto shall be that of a single family residence consistent in its exterior character. 4B, the
Can we
architecture...
just pause for 1 second? So the change in your warrant booklet is instead of saying compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, it will say consistent in its exterior character.
I'm
That's-
sorry, I
that's
should
the
have done
change.
that. Okay. Okay, 4B, the architectural effect as the result of the accessory apartment being constructed as a detached accessory structure shall be that of a structure incidental to a single-family residence and in the same character and period of architecture as the primary residence. And that would be the same thing, the same character and period. Monitoring, that's number 6. A, an affidavit shall be submitted annually to the building commissioner, signed by the property owner, attesting that the principal dwelling or accessory apartment has been owner-occupied for a period of 7 months and not otherwise rented as set forth in Section 3C, that was B, above. The building commissioner may allow a property owner to be absent during the 7-month period for cause, such as military assignment, work, or health-related issues, academic sabbatical, or similar circumstance.
Okay, so in that section, the only change is it goes from 3B to 3C.
Mhm.
That's the only change from what's printed in your warrant in that section.
Yeah, you'll see them bolded, the other changes to the bylaw.
Okay, so we've got the main motion on the floor. Are there any questions about the motion before we do the presentation? Yep. Can we get a microphone, please?
Previously, it was a one-bedroom Jerry Patamas Precinct 2. It was a one-bedroom accessory apartment. Now you're allowing up to 2 bedrooms in accessory apartment?
We always have,
Always allowed 2 bedroom?
yes.
My mistake, thank you.
Okay. Any questions just about the motion? I want to make sure we're all on the same page with that before we do the presentation. Yep. Mr. Donahue.
Mr. Moderator, through Bob Donahue, Precinct 3. 800 square feet seems very small to me for 2 bedrooms living room, dining room, kitchen.
Okay, that's
can
part
that
of, Mr. Donahue, that'll
Yeah.
be part of the debate. I want to make sure everyone understands the changes that the planning board are making from what you have in front of you in your warrant booklet. Okay, but I'll get you during the debate. Okay, so everybody's good with the changes? Okay. Now
Okay.
we'll have the presentation, Ms.
Thank you. Now, we're going to go to the changes to the bylaw. I don't know how many of you remember, but you probably do because it wasn't that long ago. It was spring 2017 town meeting that you passed this accessory apartment bylaw, and we thank you for that. As with many bylaws that are as complex as this, there are refinements that are needed as time goes on. Well, this happened when inquiries and applications started to be received. It became apparent that some clarifications were necessary. This became even more obvious during a joint meeting called by the selectmen of several boards, committees, and town personnel, all of whom had something to do with administration of the bylaw. There was little consistency of understanding of what the requirements meant as they were envisioned by the planning board. So, a temporary working group was set up with one representative each of the planning board, the zoning board of appeals, the board of health, the Affordable Housing Committee, and the Water Quality Management Committee, as well as town staff from those groups when they could attend and participate. So you can see there was broad representation when we were looking at any changes necessary to this bylaw because they all had their own different experiences. And then the following are the major changes that came out of these deliberations. You'll see 3B up there, that there should be a minimum lot size, hence 7,500 square feet, so as not to raise unreal expectations with lots that are too small for consideration. Most of you know that most of the lots here in town have septic systems on them. Any accessory apartment has to be accommodated for their sewage disposal. Some of the lots may be too small. Some of the lots that are 7,500 square feet might not even be reasonable. They have to be reviewed because it will depend upon the configuration of the lots. But as a baseline, 7,500 square feet was thought, okay, we can start off with that. The Zoning Board of Appeals originally wanted a baseline, and they were okay with 7,500 square feet. So we go to 3E. The square footage of the primary dwelling was being measured in any number of ways. Some people were counting bathrooms and hallways, some were not. Some were measuring from interior walls, some from exterior walls. The planning board originally envisioned it as being measured from exterior walls. So we have as measured from exterior walls. However, that needed further definition because we have different forms of buildings. And you'll see up here, okay, we have attic space that's been finished. So we're saying 50% of the first floor. We're saying we might have a finished half story. Well, that would be 75% of the first floor. 3/4 story, which is a gambrel. We're saying, okay, count that as 90% of the first floor. And remember, that first floor is being measured from the exterior walls. The second floor colonial and the third floor colonial would be both 100% of the first floor. This is a much easier way of calculating and pretty accurate also. There are many organizations that use this format for calculating the square footage. Then we go to 3F. The footprint of a new detached accessory dwelling unit cannot exceed that of the principal dwelling. We debated long and hard about this because you've got second stories and an accessory detached dwelling may just be and probably is a one-floor dwelling. And sometimes that footprint could be larger than the main dwelling, which could give the appearance of its being two separate main dwellings on one lot. So we put this limitation in. That working group was happy with that as a limitation. The question came up, there are some pre-existing buildings that have more than 4 bedrooms. How do we handle that? Well, you can see up here how we suggested handling that. There are a couple of different incidences, and I'll leave it up to you to read those in your warrant book. Go to the next one, Tom. Now we got into owners of properties in a coastal pond overlay district. This becomes critical with how you dispose of your wastewater. If you want to apply to have more bedrooms than the density outlined in I in here, you can only do so provided that both the principal dwelling and accessory apartment are connected to the municipal sewer system, and only to the extent allowed within the applicable sewer district bylaw or regulation. So you've got a couple of controls there. You have to be allowed to hook up to that. Or two, that you have an on-site septic system with enhanced nitrogen removal approved by the Board of Health, and it is installed on the property. We go to the changes to the existing bylaw here for design standards. The architectural effect as a result of the accessory apartment being constructed within the principal dwelling or attached thereto, so it's just one unit, shall be that of a single-family residence consistent in its exterior character. We had similar to the neighborhood, but no, because what we're trying to do is make this be absolutely unidentifiable from one residence. Or B, the architectural effect as a result of the accessory apartment being constructed as a detached accessory structure shall be that of a structure incidental to a single-family residence and in the same character and period of architecture as the primary residence. We had someone tonight who mentioned a new house going up on Church Street, not my architectural choice either. Well, it would be possible that somebody could, without this constriction on it, put up a very modern accessory apartment next to a very Cape Cod colonial. It just wouldn't mesh. So the reason for in the same character and period of architecture as the primary residence. We also had a great deal of discussion about on-street parking. We cannot allow that with an accessory apartment. Any accessory apartment that is built, whether within the building, the primary residence, or whether in a detached structure, the lot has to be capable of accepting any parking envisioned on that lot so that you're not crowding the street with parking. So this is a very simple one, monitoring, but it's a very important one too. An affidavit shall be submitted annually to the building commissioner, signed by the property owner, attesting that the principal dwelling or accessory apartment has been owner occupied for a period of 7 months and not otherwise rented as set forth in section 3C above. And that is that you can only rent one of those units at a time. It can be either the primary structure or can it be the accessory structure, but not both. The owner must live in one of those units. The building commissioner may allow a property owner to be absent during the 7-month period for cause, and that's why we had to put this in the restriction. You can only rent one of those properties at a time. So those are all the changes and the reasons behind them. And we really do hope that you will support this article. It's been a lot of work for that temporary working group, and we enjoyed trying to figure all of this out. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, Mr. Donahue.
Bob Donahue, Precinct 3. I question the 800 square feet. Why and how did you come to that number? Why not 1,000 square feet? And if we're talking about building, taking the roof off a building and putting an accessory apartment where the attic used to be, why not just use the square footage of the building itself and let it go at that. It seems like you folks are just trying to make this as complicated as you possibly can. Here again, to force a person who wants to put in an apartment to have to hire architects and lawyers and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It really defeats the whole issue of it because people won't do it. It becomes too expensive. Thank you.
It may be for some people, but the whole point of doing this is you have to remember the word accessory. Accessory is something that's not the primary. The real motivating factor on this was affordable housing. You limit the amount that you charge to some degree by the square footage of it. Why not say, well, you can have 100% of the primary residence? That would defeat the whole purpose. This was envisioned as apartments that could be used, let's say, well, let's use me. I'm getting older. And it may be that I don't, at some point in time, want to keep up my whole house. And I'd love to be able to rent my main house to somebody and have a one-bedroom, very small unit myself, maybe even an efficiency apartment. That's logical. It also serves the purpose of having somebody live there, maybe a relative, maybe not. Who knows whether you're alive or dead? That's one scenario. Another scenario is you've got children. They're hard-pressed to be able to live in Falmouth because of the expense of the housing here. So you want to put on a 1 or a 2 bedroom efficiency, an apartment, whatever you want to call it, and your children can live here while they economically get ahead. So those are various scenarios. We never, ever envisioned having something large. 1,000 square feet is fairly large. Actually, I brought 2 children up in what would be called a cottage. It's about an 1,100 square foot house. 3 bedrooms.
Beg to disagree. I think that if we're looking to house low-income people, young people, they're going to need at least 2 bedrooms probably because they're going to have children, maybe 3. We're trying to get people, young people, to stay in town. I think you're defeating it by putting limitations on this for the homeowner. Thank you.
Then we cannot call it an accessory apartment any longer. That's simply my comment, the word accessory.
Mr. Patamas.
Jerry Patamas, Precinct 2. I'd like to offer an amendment.
Okay.
You're on page 16. My suggestion and recommendation is to eliminate the term enhance, such that the language would read, an on-site septic tank system with nitrogen removal approved by the Board of Health. Nitrogen removal approved by the Board of Health. Could you go to the next slide, please? This is a little bit awkward because I had thought I was dealing with no more than 1 bedroom, but it serves the purpose. If you have a 3-bedroom house, you could put an accessory apartment in and use a standard Title V. If you have a 4-bedroom house and you wanted to go to 5 bedrooms, you have to put an enhanced system. Now, why should that worry you? If you live in Perch Pond, that's an impaired waterway, okay? Enhanced system won't help you. And the Board of Health has to deal with the term enhanced. If you live north of 28 in the Little Pond Coastal Lake overlay, We just spent millions of dollars to put sewers in. We're growing oysters, and we may, don't shoot me, we may do inlet widening, but hopefully we won't. If you live there and you want to put an accessory apartment in that exceeds the density, you have to put in an enhanced system approved by the Board of Health. Next slide, please. I've just repeated myself. This is essentially the same slide for the coastal overlay. Disregard the red. Next slide. Why? Enhanced system. It's an experimental system. Under Title V, it's called pilot systems, okay? For a pilot system to be acceptable, you have to have 18 systems, the same system, approved over 18 months of monitoring. Then you go to the next step, which is 50 systems over 3 years of monitoring. Now, granted, you could take the 15 and add it, so you only have to be 35. This enhanced is not required by town, Board of Health, or state, and more importantly, in my mind, there's no subsidy. We gave through, not Buzzards Bay, I was going to say British Bear Club, a subsidy of up to $10,000 to put in experimental systems. These people will not get any money to put in an experimental system. We gave the eco-toilets folks $5,000 initially, and I think we waived the betterment of $15,000. But if you want to accommodate elderly, younger, or maybe if you need assisted living for a member of your family, you get no subsidy. The cost of these systems are $20,000 to $30,000, plus $1,000 annually of O&M. Now this one's, well, excuse me, operation and maintenance. In other words, you have to go out and monitor it. This is not required for your neighbors. You want to put an accessory apartment in, you pay $20,000 to $30,000. Your neighbor wants to put 3 to 5 bedrooms, 3 to 4 more bedrooms in, he's not covered by any law. Or she, excuse me. I get in a lot of trouble nowadays with that. In other words, we're discriminating. Discriminating is a strong word according to the assistant town manager. But we're having an adverse impact on the people we want to help the most. The standard on-site system removes 20 to 40% nitrogen. I verified this with the health agent. I also verified it with our own town consultants. In the Oyster Pond, one of the early reports, they came up with 40% for removal of a standard nitrogen system. GHD, in another report, not necessarily for the town, said it's closer to 20 to 40%, but on average, 23%. So your average system, including cesspools, I think, could remove about 20% nitrogen. Now, this slide's a little bit misleading because I was thinking 1 bedroom, but do the math, and even Andy can figure this out. A 1 bedroom, 2-person, a 1 bedroom with 2 people in it, add 0.012 kilograms. You're going to spend, or you're going to require people that want accessory apartments to spend $20,000 to $30,000 for 0.012 kilograms. And if you have 2 bedrooms, double it. It's not consistent. I'm going to say that again. It's not consistent with any, not consistent with or required by the zoning coastal overlay district bylaw. This is something that was recommended to be put in. I think It was well-intentioned, but I don't think people fully thought it out. And I think I mentioned this earlier, and if you listen to Pat, it's unfair to the elderly, to the moderate income, those seeking independent living, and younger homeowners applying for an accessory apartment. Next slide, please. In summary, why should you vote yes on this? Fairness, $20,000 to $40,000 for a minuscule amount of nitrogen that I don't think you can measure in the water body. But you know, you put 200 of these in, you could measure it. But we're talking about 3 to 4 systems a year. This allows the Board of Health to approve the nitrogen reduction system in the absence of an approved watershed plan. Now, when I discussed this with some members of the Board of Health or the chair, they don't have a definition of enhanced. They hope to within 2 or 3 months, and I'm assuming someone will come up with something before we get the first watershed plan. But right now, and one person said, well, you know, the Board of Health can define enhanced any way they want. Well, I have more of a regulatory background. Enhanced means more than standard, okay? You can't say the people in Perch Pond don't have to put in an advanced system because you know that's not going to help all the people north of 28 in the Little Pond area. So I think, yes, it puts an onus initially on the Board of Health, but I'm urging the Board of Health and maybe the Water Quality Committee to come up with a definition or a policy of what we're going to do with enhanced and how we're going to enforce it. And finally, you should vote yes because it's consistent with the zoning bylaw and it's consistent with the intent of the accessory apartment to make more affordable or more diverse a living for the older, the younger, and you could say people that need assisted living. I'd be glad to answer any questions on my slides. I did research most of them, but if anybody wants to discuss the validity of them, I could tell you my opinion. You could disagree. Thank you.
Okay, discussion on the amendment to remove the word enhanced. Yeah, Mr. Waterbury.
John Waterbury, Precinct 1, until recently a member of the Board of Health. There are a couple of things here. There really definitionally is no difference between saying enhanced and nitrogen removing. DEP at present does not give a credit to Title V systems, normal Title V systems that we put in the ground. There is no nitrogen credit. And so this group has thought this through, and what they're asking is that if there is an increase in the number of bedrooms, you either have to be hooked to a sewer or you're going to need to put in a system that has enhanced nitrogen removal. The words that Jerry has substituted nitrogen removing is definitionally the same as enhanced. And in fact, he's correct. The definitions of these systems are not well defined at this point. And what the Board of Health has done in the past, for instance, the state regulates these enhanced systems at the moment at 19 milligrams per liter. And with what we're trying to achieve in our coastal ponds, that does us almost no good. So what we've been working toward is getting the vendors of these systems to reduce the amount of nitrogen increase the amount of nitrogen that they remove. And we're currently putting in systems in West Falmouth demonstration project in West Falmouth Harbor that are meeting less than 10 milligrams per liter. The Board of Health and its local regulations years ago mandated that systems that went in collected systems in developments with more than 5 houses had to meet 12 milligrams per liter. And if we pass this bylaw as it's written tonight, the Board of Health is at the moment reviewing its local regulations, and they will insert a standard for this particular accessory bylaw. I urge you not to vote for this amendment.
Okay.
I'm glad you agree with me, John, that the term enhanced doesn't mean anything. So we could remove it, because you said enhanced and nitrogen legally don't make any difference. I am a regulator, I'm on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we have seen when you put the wrong words in a bylaw, you give money to lawyers. And I agree, and I hope the Board of Health, and working with the Water Quality Committee, put definitional limits on what is required. Thank you.
Ms. Valiala?
Virginia Valiela, Precinct 5, and a member of the Water Quality Management Committee. I was also on the town manager's working group that was listed by Mrs. Kerfoot. There were 8 of us. We held a special meeting at the end of the process of going through all of these amendments to discuss Mr. Patamas's concerns and his desire to have the word enhanced removed. The entire committee disagreed with Mr. Patamas. Enhanced is in the original bylaw that you voted in 2017. It's not something new. It was there, and he wants to remove it. He's made several points that the Board of Health needs to work on in terms of definition, standards, and they are working on that. So working on it in parallel with what the Planning Board has done to improve this accessory bylaw. I would ask you to vote down this amendment, leave the language as it is now. It is not as dire a situation as he has painted, but I don't really want to go into all those details. The point is, this word has been there since the first time you voted this bylaw.
Okay, no, hold on. Ms. Tobey, on the amendment, you're on the original speaking list, but you want to speak on the amendment? Okay, we're just on the amendment now, removing the word enhanced. Yep, Mr. Latimer.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Richard Latimer, Precinct 1. Again, I'm going to be addressing this body as a lawyer from that perspective, and I would want to know if there is anywhere in any statute or town bylaw a specific definition of the term enhanced. Because if there is not, then Mr. Patamas is correct. It's a field day for lawyers. They can come in and say it's vague. They can come in with something that's a little better than an ordinary system and say, well, this is an enhanced system. If there is something that is specific that gets right to what this bylaw is intended to do, well, then that's fine. I'd want to know that. If there is not, then I see that there is merit in Mr. Patamas's presentation, which simply defines enhance as saying this is what it means. Otherwise, like he says, you're just inviting lawyers to come in and screw it up. Thank you.
Okay, you know you only get, unless it's a direct question to answer, you only get to speak twice after the presentation, right?
It was a question. It
Okay.
was, is there something in the bylaw?
Okay,
or is
so
there
if
some
you just
statute?
answer that, then it doesn't count against you. Okay, you're not. Okay, so if you want to speak, this is the last time you get to speak, because you only get twice.
No, because it was brought up on the history. And I think, history is in the eye of the beholder. When there was a joint meeting between the planning board and the ZBA, the consensus was to remove it. And I think, Pat, you were there, and I know my fellow ZBA members were there. Yes, it did go back to the working group, and I think there was some confusion. And yes, they didn't agree with me, but it wasn't unanimous. The chair of the Board of Health did not vote because I think she was far more of a lady than I am of a gentleman. She didn't want to upset the bailiwick or, and she didn't, but she, at the joint meeting and at that meeting, essentially agreed with me that, enhanced may be the improper term. Thank you, and I guess I sit down.
Okay. On the amendment, removing enhanced, okay. And then we're going to vote as to whether or not to remove that one word.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, my question is there some standard legal or even industry definition of the term enhanced? That is a question not just to Mr. Potamus, it's a question to the proponents of the article or to members of the Board of Health. Is there a definition that says that enhanced means nitrogen removing? Because if there is not, then it is a vague term. And if it's a vague term, it means that the bylaw runs into problems. That's a simple question. Is there a definition that we know that it is enhanced means nitrogen removing?
Okay. Is there someone that can answer that question? That's your answer, Mr. Latimer. The question will come on the amendment to remove the word enhanced. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. It's appear the chairs that the noes have it by a majority. Going to go back to they're requesting a roll call. Are there 7 people that want to count that one? Okay, we've got 7. Let's queue up a slide. We're going to be voting with the electronic device on the amendment to remove the word enhanced. A yes vote removes the word. A no vote does not remove the word. Did you want to, you said counted vote, right? You asked for counted, so it's counted. It's not a roll call. Do we have the slide ready? Yep. Okay, the slide is now open on the amendment. A yes vote to remove the word enhanced, a no vote to leave the word in there. 1A for yes, 2B for no. Is it just not flashing on your handset? You're getting a red light? Okay, let's stop the roll call device. And what happens when the red light flashes? No, I'm saying what's happening on the laptop when your light goes red. That's what I want to know. Okay. Okay. Because his wasn't registering before, but it was on the computer. That's what I want to check. Andy Dufresne, you were right. It was bound to happen. Yeah. But a flashing red light means it's not working, correct? Yes. Yes, and I saw red lights flashing. They showed it. They had it up there, all flashing red.
On the slide, were there 2 answers to be given or just 1 answer?
Did you use the quorum slide? Yeah, replication of the quorum slide only allows a yes vote. Okay. No problem. This is your first time doing this. I totally understand that. No problem. You're going to be an expert by the next one. Otherwise, Andy's going to come back and start counting again. Okay, are we ready to do this one? Okay, the roll call device has been activated. This is the amendment to remove the word enhanced. Press 1 to remove the word. Press 2 to not remove the word. Just got a text from somebody at home watching this and said somebody probably hacked the system. It must be the Russians. The Russians are now influencing the Falmouth Town Meeting. Okay, 15 seconds left in the polling. By a counted vote of 89 in favor and 108 opposed, the ruling of the chair stands. Go back to the main motion. My next speaker was Mr. Dinan.
Thank you. Bill Dinan, Precinct 5, New Silver Beach. A question on lot size consideration for Seward homes. New Silver has 210, and I know there's another little pond has 1,400. Most of those lots, not that they're going to put accessory apartments there, are below the 7,500 feet, which you mentioned was consideration for additional storage, additional septic systems. Was that consideration taken into effect?
There were two reasons. One would be if you're on a septic system, you're required to have a reserve, so far as I know. The other one is parking. And it's already pretty tight to park everything on the lot when you have a very small lot. And some of those lots are 4,000 and 5,000 square feet. You'd be hard pressed to get a reserve septic system on those. You'd be hard pressed to have enough parking with an accessory apartment. And what the concern was, we originally said, no, we weren't going to have any limit. If you could figure out how to do it, you could have an accessory apartment. The zoning board and others really wanted to have a minimal lot size. They would have preferred 10,000 to 15,000 square feet. But they said, okay, we'll start at 7,500. And as I pointed out, 7,500 isn't even sometimes going to be sufficient to accommodate an accessory apartment because
Correct.
of its configuration.
The question, some of them are double lots in a lot of the beach areas, which would be 11,000 square feet. But you mentioned a backup system. It's 100% storage. We already paid our $30,000 to hook up.
If you've got a sewer, no, you don't have the problem.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still, with a storage, 7,500 square feet. Everything else is met.
What is in the bylaw that we're voting on.
But there was no consideration, I don't think the consideration wasn't taken into place here for a house that has 11,000 square feet, meets the criteria, less than 11,000 or 7,500 square feet that meets that has parking. So
Well, you say there are two lots. Are they combined?
some of them are, some of them aren't though.
Then you've got no problem if it's 11,000 square feet.
And the lot size is 6,000 square feet that has storage and has parking.
You know, my guess is if you feel it's okay, you can appeal it.
Okay, that's the criteria. Okay.
We do have an appeals system if you want to do that.
I don't think you're going to see many of those in the beach areas, but
Yeah.
I just question that.
I'd like to comment about something too, not specifically your question, but it seems that there's a lot of background thought about, well, this is going to be too expensive to put a septic system in. It's going to be too expensive to build an accessory apartment. But I really do want to point out that unless you're doing it for, say, parents or children that you don't want to charge them, you are going to be getting a rental on these and hopefully making some money on them to pay back whatever you have to borrow to put it in or to pay your own savings account back. So I feel it's necessary to point this out too. These aren't just giveaways to people. They are to help the people in the community who do need to have less expensive living arrangements.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ms. Toby. Ms. Siegel, you were on the original list already. Yeah, Ms. Toby.
Linda Toby, Precinct 4. I think that this is a good idea to build small accessory apartments for older people or for children to be able to stay on the Cape, to stay in Falmouth. What I have a question about is how you would monitor them, especially like 3D, where it says either the principal dwelling or accessory apartment may be rented, but not both. I have no idea how you'd monitor that. The owner-occupied dwelling cannot be rented while owner is absent. And it goes on about rental periods and all. Who or how would any monitoring happen in these apartments?
Well, you do have to provide a certificate to the building commissioner every year, certifying. That means you've got to sign your name to a report, and that has some legal standing there. But like everything else in Falmouth, it's always been a complaint with people, well, why doesn't somebody check that out? Well, people only check out somebody who's not playing according to the rules when it's reported. And I'm assuming that's going to be the same here too, unless you decide to put somebody in who monitors this, who goes around and knocks on doors too. And we've never hired somebody who will do that kind of thing. So it would be up to, let's say, you have an apartment, an accessory apartment, and you have a primary house, and you're renting both of them while you're off playing in France. Your neighbors would have to rat you out, or it's not going to be found out.
I just think that maybe that issue should be revisited before it becomes a problem. I just think that'd be a good thing to look into.
Thank you for your comment.
Mr. Hargraves?
Peter Hargraves, Precinct 9. I have a question to clarify actually the point that was just made for Section D, where it talks about renting one apartment but not both. But concerning is something that came up in our precinct meeting, and I'm not sure if it's been answered, but I know there were members of the planning board there. If you look at C, just above that, it says it must be owner-occupied for a period of 7 months in every calendar year or owned by a nonprofit organization or government authority. So to me, it looks like staging a business opportunity for someone who wants to have this and then rent out 2 apartments. But how does that wash with D that says the owner must occupy one of the units 7 months out of the year if it's owned by a nonprofit organization? To me,
I don't know how it squares, honestly.
I would vote against it if that isn't clarified.
Okay. All right.
I don't know how to clarify that. I mean, that was in the original that you voted in 2017, and a nonprofit organization or government authority would be one whose goal is to provide affordable housing. And we put that in, to the best of my failing memory, when we wrote this, feeling that if a nonprofit agency owned a house and built an accessory apartment, both could be rented for an affordable rate. That is the only thing I can say with that.
So do you have a direct answer to that question? You're on the speaker's list, but do you have the answer to that question? Okay. No, let's do the microphone.
Am I done?
Well, we're trying to get an answer to your question.
Oh.
She said, she made some comments, but she said she couldn't answer it. Yeah.
The Falmouth Housing Authority owns a large number of raised ranches and other such houses in neighborhoods, one here, one there. And if the Housing Authority wanted to break a raised ranch into a accessory apartment type arrangement, well, no one from the Housing Authority is going to live in that primary apartment.
But the question is, this bylaw says they have to. And so where is the...
No, it says
doesn't-
are owned by
Or owned by.
a nonprofit organization or government authority. And they're exempt.
So I'm sorry to spring this on you, Pat. We
So
did
yeah,
bring
it's a
it-
separate section, though, that says that owner occupied.
we did bring it up at the precinct meeting, and my concern is I definitely support the spirit and the intent of the accessory apartment bylaw for aging people to stay in place and get some financial help by renting out part of their house. But when you provide an opportunity to monetize the way that this is written, who's responsible? It's different if the homeowner is on site and is responsible, but if it's some organization with offices in New Jersey and they have 2 units that they're renting out, what are the neighbors to do?
So, Ms. Kerfoot, just in section C, because he was cross-referencing D to C.
Right.
The language, or owned by a nonprofit organization or government authority whose purpose is to provide affordable housing, is a separate classification than a principal dwelling or accessory apartment in the first part of that sentence, correct?
Correct.
So the reference in section D to an owner-occupied dwelling references the first part of section C and not the second part of section C.
That is correct.
So the answer is the exemption is within the grammatical language of the sentence in section C. You are either owner-occupied, and then if that's the case, you have to live there and do all that, or you are owned by a nonprofit organization or government entity. So the exemption is within the language of section C, meaning that section D doesn't apply to owned nonprofit or government authorities, only to the first part of it, owner-occupied. See what I'm saying? Otherwise, they would have put all of that at the beginning of the sentence. Those are called predicate nouns. You would have had the sentence start there, and then everything in D would apply to everything in C. Right?
I told you, I was relying on a memory that went back a number of years, and so he just said, yeah, that's what it is. If the housing authority owns it and wants to put an accessory apartment in, it's exempted.
Okay. Yep, Mr. Hargraves?
I am not a legislator, but I will just say this. I wanted to bring it to the attention of my colleagues, and one of the local attorneys who has several articles in this warrant has said to me, ambiguity goes to the plaintiff, and in this case, if there's sufficient ambiguity, it's done, it's over, and we're cooked, so.
Okay. Yeah, you know, it is in the bylaw. So I can add you all to the list, because this is a really long list, and we've been doing this for almost an hour. So yeah, I'll add you to the list. Okay, Mr. Kasparian was next on the list.
Thank you, Michael Kasparian, Precinct 5. I'm standing up to speak in favor of this article. I think it's very well thought out. I really don't think there's anything onerous about it. We do have a serious problem here, and I think it's confusing going back and trying to remember from spring of 2017. A lot of the issues I think we're talking about have already been decided. And again, you know, as far as size, et cetera, like you, I raised my family in a 900 square foot apartment in a 2-family house before we moved to Falmouth. What I like about it is that it does give specifics on how you measure, which I think are in line with what real estate appraisers use to measure in terms of banks and lending. And it's nice because there's no ambiguity there. The other part I like about it is the architectural component. Because I'd have no problem with somebody in my neighborhood doing something like this for their children or their parents, or I may choose to do it. But I certainly would want to make sure that it was done in a tasteful manner. And I think that the things that you've proposed will ensure that that will happen. Again, I don't think there's anything onerous here. Anything we can do to enhance these type of accessory apartments and encourage people to do them, because as we know, Falmouth is very rapidly turning into a very high-priced retirement community. And people who work here are having a very difficult time living here, and we have to work together in order to remedy that. So again, I ask you to vote in favor for this article. I think it's very well thought out. And the fact that I'm sure as we move on, there's going to be other things going to come up that you're going to find that need to be addressed in order to make sure that everyone's playing fair and square. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Siegel.
Deborah Siegel, Precinct 6. From everything I can tell, this working group that was pulled together comprises a huge amount of expertise from different town committees and boards, and I think they've done a very comprehensive job. I would like to remind town meeting that if it does turn out that they have missed something, this can be amended later, and I urge us to vote yes for this. Thank you.
Ms. Braga? No. Mr. Patamas?
Jerry Patamas, Precinct 2. I won one yesterday. I lost one tonight. Hopefully this can't be a draw. But could you bring up my second amendment? This is one of more of good governance and efficiency on how we go through the process. I'd like to eliminate the terms an accessory apartment built within or as an accessory structure not attached to a single family, and replace it with, in addition to site plan review requirements above, an accessory apartment shall require a special, and that should be permit, from the Zoning Board of Appeals installed, I put there, from a special, shall require a special permit from the zoning board, period. I'm sorry, I did this late last night and some finger graphical errors. Essentially what this says, before you had to go to the planning board for one type of property and the ZBA for another type of property, which to me is not efficient government. Next slide, please. It's a more efficient process to allow the special permit to be issued by one board. The Zoning Board of Appeals is the town's subject matter expert on special permits. Last year, the Zoning Board of Appeals issued somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 special permits in addition to variances. Zoning is not a nice subject to talk about. Most people's eyes close, and attorneys make a lot of money coming in front of us. The second one is the ZBA must issue a special permit for a property that's not conforming. So if you have a small house and you want to put the accessory apartment in a garage detached, okay, you have to come in front of the ZBA. So it's nothing against the planning board. I think the ZBA probably is in a better position to administrate this. Yes, the people will still have to do site plan review, but you go to one board for your special permit. Thank you.
Okay, discussion on the amendment. Mr. Fox?
When we passed this, we deliberately made it if it was by bylaw and within the structure, it was by right. So it was trying to streamline the process and not make it a special permit. And this would be taking us backwards of what we tried to do last time and turn it into a special permit. That was the whole intent of what we passed last year. And now it seems like we're going backwards and redoing everything. The big argument was that most of these things can be built within the structure and be a by right use and not a special permit. It's changing the whole bylaw with this.
Further discussion on the amendment. Ms. Putnam.
Rebecca Putnam, Precinct 9. I would agree. We approved the original bylaw to streamline the process, to make it less of a expense, headache, especially for a lot of our older residents who don't have a lot of extra income, that are trying to do this for their kids or trying to do this for themselves, to have a retirement place, to have a place for their kids to afford to live. The whole purpose was to make it easier and less costly. Now, I know people on both boards, and neither one are going to like what I have to say, but this has become a argumentative process between two boards who do not want to get along at the moment. So please vote this down.
Okay, the question will come on the amendment as presented on the slide above. Striking 5B and inserting the bold underlined language. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. It's the opinion of the chairs that the noes have it by a majority. The question will now come on the main motion. Mr. Latimer, you have something new on the underlying main motion? Okay, Mr. Latimer. Did he speak on this one yet? He spoke on the amendment. He didn't speak on the main motion. He spoke on
Thank you, Richard Latimer, Precinct 1. On the main motion, I think this is a well-reasoned article as far as it goes. It is based on a real need, and the planning board is addressing it properly. The 7,500 square foot restriction is reasonably calculated to make sure that the units remain affordable where real estate will be priced according to square footage. I think there will be needs for amendments to this article, however, which can come later, but I just want to put one out there, which is the situation of an older couple. Their kids have gone, they're out in California, they're wherever. They have one of these apartments that helps their income. First, the old man dies, then the old lady has to go in the nursing home. What happens there? There's no longer an owner to occupy it. I think that's a situation where the heirs should be able to maintain that additional unit to rent it, but restricted to affordable rental, which will be consistent with the purpose of the bylaw.
Dead people can't own property, so somebody's going to own it after they both die.
The heirs.
Yeah, so they're the owners. They got to occupy it.
Yes, but my parent has died. I'm out in San Francisco. I'm working at a major corporation. I'm going to be there for 20 years. I own this property now. Now my options are I'm either going to sell it, and the buyer's not going to want to buy it with an affordable unit. He's going to tear down the affordable unit or expand his building. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed in the future. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. We're not going to talk about future amendments, though, because we only have two
Support this
amendments. We
bylaw.
already had them. They both failed. We're on the main motion. Mr. Finneran, something new, and then we're voting on this.
I think this is a great article. I think it's a win-win for the people in the houses that want to stay here, as well as who may be renting that wants to stay here as well. I'm not sure about this, and there may be somebody here from the assessing department or whatever, but aren't the homes that Kinchler built and others on Mira Vista, aren't they 7,200 square feet, a lot of those lots? And they're on the sewer? I know we've been through the amendments, but wouldn't it make sense if one of those houses, because it pretty much locks out all the houses on Mira Vista. If somebody was on the sewer and had 7,200 square feet, which a lot of those lots are, shouldn't they be allowed on this? Have we used the amendments failed? We've already gone through the two?
Yeah, we've already used two amendments, so we can't do it tonight.
Well, it kind of locks everybody out on Mira Vista, doesn't it? And they're sewered, and it eliminates all the...
Something to consider for the next town meeting, a new article. Yeah. Mr. Fox, you want to address that?
Real quickly, this was a negotiated point. We never wanted a limit on it, but the ZBA wanted them to make it 10,000 square feet, and we compromised down to this level. So if you're looking for reasons, it was simple negotiation with the ZBA to move it forward. And we thought it was a reasonable thing to move the deal forward. There's a lot of things you have to do to get this through, and we negotiated a lot of things to do it, and that was just to satisfy the ZBA because they were demanding 10,000 feet, and we won by making it 75, and that's the way we looked at it.
Okay, the question will come on the main motion as presented by the planning board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. It's the opinion of the chairs that the ayes have it by a 2/3 majority, and I so declare. Article 15, Madam The Planning Board for the main motion. Planning Board, Article 15, main motion.
Mr. Moderator, we move the article as printed.
As printed. Okay, who's going to present on this? We have someone to present. Yeah, is there someone to present on this on behalf of the petitioner?
There he is.
Mr. Ahmed? This is vote to amend Article 6, General Residence Districts of Chapter 240 Zoning Code of Falmouth for accessory apartments.
Thank you,
Mr. Ahmed.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Bob Ament, a Precinct 1 of Falmouth attorney. I'm speaking for Kevin Clower, the petitioner, who is my law firm partner. There's been a lot of discussion just now about accessory apartments. Last town meeting, a similar article sponsored by the Planning Board requested the inclusion of the general residence district in those areas of town where you could have an accessory apartment, just like all other residential districts and agricultural districts, so almost all of town. The general residence district was historically not included because there was no need in the general residence district to have accessory apartment regulation because two-family units were permitted by right. When the accessory apartment bylaw was amended in 2017 to allow detached accessory apartments, that changed the situation because that meant there was a creation of two dwellings on a single lot with a dwelling in each of them. That situation is not allowed in the general residence district, even though you can have a triplex by right if one of the units is affordable. In any case, at the last town meeting, the action on the proposal to include the general residence district was put off because of the feeling that there should be the opportunity for the ad hoc committee to review the bylaw and make recommendations. That's now been done. We have new restrictions. We also have, because of Article 6 passed yesterday, a new map of the recharge areas in town that would subject more properties for which an accessory apartment is being sought to that bylaw and those restrictions. So at this point, I would hope that the town meeting will follow the recommendation of the Planning Board, really for the second town meeting in a row, to include general residence districts in those areas that can have accessory apartments. Because they would be, we're talking about really detached accessory apartments because, again, duplexes are permitted by right. Every case that this would apply would involve a special permit from the Board of Appeals as well as site plan review from the Planning Board. Thank you.
Okay, any discussion on the main motion as printed? Ms. Shepherd.
Susan Shepherd, Precinct 1. I'm a little surprised by the vagueness of this article. How much of town is general residence? Is this article being submitted on behalf of a single property owner? I'm asking because I've had a number of phone calls and emails. I admittedly know nothing about this. From people who live in the general residence district who are very concerned about this bylaw. That's all. So is it on behalf of a single person?
Thank you. My office does represent somebody who would like to have an accessory apartment that already exists legalized. I believe there are many second dwelling units in the general residence district for the most part, the older part of town, near downtown. There are small pockets of general residence district in McCoy, in North Falmouth. These are very small areas, also in Woods Hole. I believe that the town meeting can see a map of all the general residence districts in town if you would like. There are many grandfathered duplexes and triplexes and second dwelling units in the general residence district. It really seems odd to me that a bylaw which allows these accessory apartments applies in all residential districts in town, all agricultural districts in town. And that's probably 92 or 93% of the town. And the rest of the town is some industrial, some business, and some marine, a very little bit, and some relatively small area of general residence district. We allowed this all over town. General residence districts are the areas that are close to village centers, intended as a buffer between business zones and residential zones, generally near public transportation. This is exactly where one would expect to be able to have an accessory apartment. And in this case, because of the bylaw, we're talking about a use that's only allowed by special permit and site plan review in a district that allows duplexes by right and allows triplexes by right if one of the units is affordable. In a triplex, it's really broader than that. It's multifamily use that's allowed, which means you can have 3 separate dwelling units, 3 separate dwellings in the general residence district under our bylaw. You can have 3, but you can't have 2. It doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Okay. You got something? Yep. Ms. Peterson? Oh, we have a motion to move the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it by the 2/3. The question is going to come on Article 15 as printed. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. It's opinion of the chairs that the ayes have it by a 2/3. Do Article 19. This is going to be a quick one. Madam Chairman for the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Moderator, the motion is to indefinitely postpone.
Okay, we can't take any action on this article because of a posting requirement, so the recommendation is, in the main motion, is indefinite postponement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, unanimous, and we'll stand in recess for 15 minutes.